Tim says it is so much easier to see the sin in other people than ourselves, isn't it though? Whew. Like no, you're right, man. That's absolutely true. We focus a lot on the sins of others. Absolutely. Just look at Pride Month. Look at Pride Month and all the different religious folks who are pointing out the sins of others and not focusing on their own. You're absolutely right on that. And it's a bad habit. And it's actually something that, again, in Jesus's day, don't do it. Take care of the 2x4 in your own ear before you worry about the speck of dust in the other guys. It's always been there. It's probably just part of our human nature that I'm going to look for the flaws in others so that I don't have to look for the flaws. And maybe it's so that we don't have to look for the flaws in ourselves. We're too busy. You know what? Let's use that as a way of jumping into a topic. So I got this week, I did a video. I think it was the video I did about peace. And in the video about peace, I said that I came back from a comment. Somebody made a comment about, is it futile to work for peace, given the fact that Jesus says there'll always be wars and rumors of wars? And we had a little conversation about that. And I said, it might be futile, but we're supposed to do it. We're supposed to do it. We're supposed to do it. Somebody commented and they said, living a sinless life is futile, but we are called to do that also. All right. Living a sinless life is futile, but we are called to do that also. It's true. Right? Being perfectly sinless is probably impossible. Maybe. Possibly. Maybe. I remember years ago when I first gave myself to my faith. I was raised in the Anglican church growing up, baptized as a baby, raised in the church growing up. Went to services, served on the altar, did all the things that a person does, as a kid does. But it was much later that I sort of really leaned into my faith. It was much later that I chose to truly, what I hope is to truly follow Christ. But I remember being at a church service and my buddy Glenn was preaching. And Glenn is brilliant and awesome, and he did things that I had never seen a preacher do. He's great. He's just a wonderful guy. He and his family, his wife Amy, are lifesavers to me. Glenn was preaching. He said, "How many of you think you can go a week without sin?" And nobody put their hand up. This was a Southern Baptist church. "How many of you think you can go a day without sinning?" I don't know. A couple people put their hand up. "How many of you think you can go an hour without sinning?" And more people put their hand up. I kept mine down. "How many of you think you can go 5 minutes without sinning?" And a lot of people put their hands up, and I kept mine down. "How many of you think you can't possibly go a minute without sinning?" And I put my hand up. And honestly, I think I might have been one of the only ones. But that comes from a theological understanding of sin, that we are all sinners, and that we all fall short, and that we can't do anything but make mistakes, and we can't do anything but do bad things, right? Because the part of it is you look at sin as though it's a bad thing. Like, okay, I stole, I killed, I murdered, I coveted, I was greedy, I disrespected my parents, I looked to other gods and worshipped other idols and didn't give my heart, mind, soul, and body to God. But it's not, sin missing the mark, as has been pointed out to me many times in this channel. Missing the mark is not always because you're being bad. It's not always because you're doing evil. Sometimes it's just because you weren't perfect today, right? Think about that first commandment. Think about the first commandment. Love your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and body. Love your God with all of your mind. What does that mean? What does it mean we should love your God with all my soul? What does it mean when I love my God with all my strength, all my body? Love God with all my heart. Does that mean I shouldn't have room for others, to love others? Does it mean I shouldn't do other things or except to work for God? You could look at that and say, oh man, I'm never going to be able to pull it off. Missing the mark, sinning. Again, it isn't just you're bad and you've done something horrible and you've done something evil and you've done something that you shouldn't have done. Sin is you just haven't lived today perfectly. You haven't lived today perfectly. So, yeah, it's difficult for us to live today perfectly. And I think I'm going to do a different talk about sin again this week because the word debauchery is just really ticking me off. And perversion, that's another one. Perversion and debauchery have been on my mind now for a long time. Whatever that says about me. They've been on my mind and how they're used. Anyhow, that's a different video. What I wanted to say this time is, how is it then that we can live a perfect life? How is it that we can live a sinless life? Despite the fact that, as my friend says here, living a sinless life is futile. It can't be done. We are called to do that. How can we do that? Here's what I think about that. Take this with a grain of salt. Stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about the number of ways you are imperfect. Stop thinking about how you are going to stop doing the things that you shouldn't be doing. Stop thinking about how you're not doing certain things that you should be doing. Stop thinking about it. Give it no energy. Give it no time. Give it none of yourself. None. Absolutely none. Fall back into the grace that God has promised us through Jesus Christ. Died once for all. Fall back into that grace. Accept that I am not perfect. Accept that I am faulty. I have made mistakes. I am not living the perfect life, but that's why Jesus' grace lies upon me. And then do what Jesus told you to do. I mean, Jesus does tell us, be perfect as my Father in heaven is perfect. But we can't get there. Let's just accept that. We're going to take that. I'm going to put that on a shelf. And we're going to say that's over there on that shelf because God's grace is poured down upon me through Jesus Christ. I am saved. I don't have anything to worry about because of God's grace that is poured down upon me through Jesus Christ. Died once for all. So now I can just do what Jesus told me to do. I can just go out and I can spend my time, I can focus my life on doing the things that Jesus told me to do. And what Jesus tells us to do, I think, can be boiled down to this. Take care of others. Take care of others. Paul tells us, if you bear one another's burdens, you are fulfilling the law. If you bear one another's burdens, you are fulfilling the law. Spend your days focused on taking care of others. And ask you, how have I taken care of the world today? How have I taken care of my neighbor today? How have I taken care of my family today? How have I taken care of my congregation today? Focus on that. Give nothing to the sin that is troubling you. Give nothing to it. Focus on following Christ. Focus on following Jesus. Focus on doing the things that Jesus told you to do. If you focus on what he's offered, if you focused on what he's called you to do, transformation will come. And it'll come organically. All right? It will come, and it will come organically. If I give myself to Jesus, I will become more like Jesus, despite myself. I will become more like Jesus, even though I'm not trying. Those things that I've been trying forever and a day to let go of, they'll disappear, despite the fact that I didn't let them go. They will just organically go. We will be, and we are all transformed. Not because we choose to go out and try to be perfect, but because we go out and do the work that Jesus called us to do. And by doing that work, loving God with all your heart, mind, soul, and body, and loving your neighbor as yourself, going out and loving our neighbor as ourselves, going out and loving one another as Jesus loved us, transformation will happen. And the things in your life that need to change will be changed. There's no reason, if we are as a Christian, there is no reason for me to leave room for shame and guilt to become aspects of my life. None. They will not do me any good at all. There is no place for them in my life. I don't want them. They are only going to tax me. Therefore, and if they tax me, they're going to take away my energy to do the things that I'm supposed to be doing, to do the things that Jesus tells me to do the things that will give me life. So shame and guilt, the sin, the things that I think are a problem, I'm not going to worry about them. I'm going to live the life that Jesus asks me to live. Full stop. Because that's when the transformation happens. Amen.